No one saw this coming. Your Dallas Mavericks have started the season 2-5 after dropping another L to the Houston Rockets last night. And, to be fair, maybe some people saw this coming. I personally didn't. I like to look at the Dallas Mavericks with rose-tinted glasses, to be fair. Okay. But the hill that I'm willing to die on this fine Tuesday afternoon is that nobody really had it on their bingo cards that the Dallas Mavericks were going to have the worst offense in the NBA. So first, we're going to have a little box score soapbox. Okay, rant and rave about what we saw on the court last night. And then caution, hot tea. Are the Dallas Mavericks trying to play Cooper Flagg through a shoulder injury right now? We'll have to see what Jason, I'm not a doctor, kid had to say about it. And then also in the rumor segment today, what did one of the greatest basketball players of all time have to say about our rook? Okay. And then lastly, at the end of our episode, guys, look, your advisor has been getting just a ton of phone calls from the Memphis Grizzlies, and they're wanting to discuss trading the embattled Ja Morant. I'm going to pass on this one, but stick around to find out why I think it's such a bad idea to trade for Ja Morant at this point. But now that you are just chomping at the proverbial bit here, let me make a quick intro. I am Ethan, the advisor, Clayton. Welcome to the party. And by party, I mean Dope Podcast. This is your Mavs, a Dallas Mavericks podcast where all are welcome, but y'all better behave. There is lots to talk about today. Let's do this. First, let's have a little meltdown as we recap the box score from last night's loss. But you know me by now. All 8 subscribers of you know me by now. I like to start with the positives, okay? So the first positive, it was a fabulous showing from PJ Washington last night. Here are his stats: 29 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 stocks. That's steals and blocks for those that don't know. It was just a stat sheet filler type of night for PJ Washington. And you may look at the final score and see that we only lost by 8. I'm here to tell you that PJ Washington is the only reason that the game was even close last night. I mean, he just was an absolute boss. But my first, I guess, soapbox moment. How many games do we think we're going to win if PJ Washington is our number 1 scoring option? Now, that may not be totally fair to Anthony Davis, who is injured right now. And I think we just got the report a few minutes ago that AD will also be out tomorrow night against the Pelicans. Convenient. But anyway, I don't think that that's the recipe for us to win a lot of ball games. It's for PJ Washington to be our number 1 offensive option. But I'll stop there. PJ, let's hats off, my man. You stood on business last night, and you were virtually the only one that showed up to compete for 48 minutes. Now, we saw little spurts from other players. We'll talk about those maybe in today's episode. But PJ Washington, shout out. You are the man. Mavericks, we shouldn't be relying on PJ to be the number 1 scoring option. Do better. Okay. Next thing I want to unpack, looking at the box score, we were out rebounded once again, this time 54-40 by the Houston Rockets. And what was so grotesque about that is that we allowed 15 offensive rebounds, 15 of them. Okay. If you take a step back and look at our defensive pressure last night, I think we were pretty solid. Okay. Start to finish, we were putting on-ball pressure. We were double teaming Kevin Durant. We were double teaming Şengün pretty much the whole freaking time. And it worked for the most part on KD. So we're like, hey, that's a good thing. And by the way, the Mavericks are ranked 12th in the NBA in defense right now. So that's a little silver lining through all of the grossness that we're seeing on the court. But for us to be that good defensively and put a fair amount of defensive pressure on their best ball handlers, we should be looking pretty good on the box score. But it doesn't matter if you cannot grab a rebound. If they are virtually getting every missed shot that they can, then it really doesn't matter. There are no stops technically, and we're wearing down our defense by giving up those second chance points. In fact, that was happening all over the place. I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. This team, the Houston Rockets, are actually executing the double big lineup well. Okay, they at all times have Şengün and Steven Adams on the court. Not at all times, you know what I'm saying, but they're executing it well. And where that's showing up the most on the box score is in those offensive rebounds, where the Mavericks are getting owned the most in the box score, basically against anybody that they play, is giving up too many stinking offensive rebounds. So that just became a glaring issue, and it was almost it was basically the thing that put the nail in the coffin last night. Right? Again, we're getting stopped. They're missing shots all over the place, but it doesn't matter because the Rockets were scooping up the rebounds immediately. Okay. Next thing, looking at the box score, we did turn the ball over less than we have been. In fact, we turned it over less than the Rockets did. We only turned it over 15 times to the Rockets, 17. And there were a few crucial turnovers that we forced in the fourth quarter to cut our 9-point deficit to 0 real fast, right? Again, led by PJ Washington. And then, on top of those turnovers that we were forcing, we even hit a couple of threes in the fourth quarter. Guys, that is how you dig out of a hole. But again, if you're turning the ball over and they're missing shots, but you can't grab the rebound, that was ultimately what did us in last night. I was impressed with the effort for all 48 minutes from the Mavericks, but ultimately you can't continue to shoot 45% from the field and 25% from the three-point line. Okay, you can't do it. There is no winning recipe when you're putting up those kinds of stats. Now, last thing I'll say about the box score, I thought I was really onto something yesterday. I did a bold take in yesterday's episode that we were going to see Cooper Flagg's first 30-point performance of his NBA career. And you know what? I was just I was feeling myself after that first quarter. Cooper started off 4 for 4 from the field with 9 points, even hit a 3. He looked smooth with it, right? He came out with confidence and aggression. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I was onto something with that 30-point prediction. Nope. From then on out, he only hit one more shot for the rest of the game. Okay. You've heard Nick at Locked On Mavs talk about it. You've heard the DLLS crew talk about it. For much of the second half, Cooper Flagg was just kind of standing in the corner. Now, some of it could be his fault for not looking or asking for the ball. I think the vast majority of it is D'Angelo. Like, you got to have your head up, homie. You got to be looking around. You can't just be chucking up shots, especially when we're trying to mount a comeback in the fourth quarter. Like, yeah, we need you to shoot, but we don't need you to just have a blind eye to all the guys that are open. And it just didn't look like we were running any actions for Cooper Flagg to get him open or to get him the ball. And so basically he was just a bystander for the second half. Who knows the real reason why? One thing I'm going to speculate about, transitioning into the rumor segment of our episode, maybe we can take Coach Kidd at his word, right? In the post-game conference or post-game press conference, he talked about Coop being a tough kid, quote unquote, playing through that collision that happened in the early second quarter, I believe. But if it's not a real injury, right, and it seems to me that it is, right? Because again, I believe it's the first quarter against OKC, maybe even the first play of the game, he tweaked his shoulder, right? And then he's just been holding on to it pretty constantly since. But if it is an actual injury that is sticking around, why are we trying to play him through the injury? Okay, that's my second soapbox of the day. That is less to do with the box score and more to do with, can we please take care of our players? Okay, speaking of which, it didn't look like Daniel Gafford was 100% coming into last night's game. But you know what? Out of necessity, our guy played. And the minutes restriction that he was supposed to be on, he far exceeded that. I'm going to give a quick tip of the cap to Daniel Gafford for being so gritty last night, and he actually looked good. But I'm not happy with the Mavs medical staff if in fact Daniel Gafford was not 100% going into the night and we're having to play him through, because who knows what happened with Derek Lively's knee injury at this point. Who knows when we'll see AD on the court again. I just don't like that we're 7 games in and we're already having to play guys through injury, including our 18-year-old rookie. Now, maybe it's just copium. Maybe I'm just kind of assigning too much value to this, that maybe that's why he hasn't shot the ball well, is that he's just continued having to play through a shoulder injury. But nonetheless, he shot the ball well last night again. He started off hot. I wish we had just continued giving him the ball throughout the game. It was going to be his 30-point game, his first 30-point game of his career. Maybe next time. But I will continue throwing bold predictions out there. And part of that is because I think the eye test is an important thing when we're evaluating basketball, right? And I talked about that in the last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago. But anyway, Cooper Flagg looked good, and he has looked pretty okay for most of the season. I think he does anyway. And one of the all-time greats is agreeing with me. He even shared the court with Cooper Flagg last night. I'm talking about Kevin Durant. After the game, he was quoted to say, Cooper will be viewed as one of the all-time greats. He is a menace out there. So I say no more, KD. I've liked you since you were at UT. I know maybe your legacy has taken a hit in the NBA because you bounced from OKC to the Warriors, and then you almost brought Brooklyn out of the netherworld and into a championship conversation, and then you couldn't do it. I don't care about any of that. I'm a Kevin Durant fan, and I like him even more after last night. He didn't shred us apart with his shooting, right? Again, we double teamed him, and that actually worked pretty well. But he is saying glowing things about our guy, Cooper Flagg. And I agree with him. Cooper Flagg will be one of the all-time greats. I don't care what your advanced analytics are saying right now. He is 18 years old. I'm gonna be a broken record. He's 18 years old playing out of position. So that's all the rumors for you today. Now let's talk about the trade discussion just real quick. I mean, should the Dallas Mavericks entertain a trade with Ja Morant? As I said in the intro, no. I'm not into this idea, and it has nothing to do with the personality quirks, if you will. It has nothing to do with past suspensions or even the most recent suspension. Nothing to do with that. In fact, I'm gonna keep it totally based off of statistics. His scoring production has continued tapering off over these last 3 seasons, and right now he's averaging 20 points a game. Not bad. 7 assists, pretty freaking good. I do like that part of it. But check out the shooting splits. Less than 40%, 39.3 from the field, and 13.9% from three-point line. 13.9. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that at the end of the season, those are what his shooting splits are going to be. There's nowhere to go but up for him. But listen, we don't need to have another terrible three-point shooter on our roster. Okay. And considering that we would have to give up 3 or 4 of our guys, 3 of our important rotational guys to match salary, he's got a $39 million contract. To me, it's not worth it to bring in someone that can't shoot the ball, right, and do it consistently. Now, the positive of bringing someone like Ja Morant over to the Mavs would be he is a floor general. Like, he would be a true point guard on the floor to start games, right? Something that we haven't had. But listen, that's, to me right now, that's not enough, because if we're just talking about dishing the ball and getting assists, D'Angelo Russell had 12 assists last night, right? We're not looking at just the stats. We're looking at the quality of play. And I'm telling you, just the little bit that I've watched the Grizzlies this season, he does not look like the same Ja Morant. Now, maybe he just needs a change of scenery. Maybe other teams should give up 3 or 4 important rotational guys to match that salary. I just don't think that really fits the Mavericks' most important need, which is shooting and offensive creation. Okay. For him to literally be 39% from the field, I don't see that as a good fit on our roster that is struggling to produce points, right? We've got a team full of people that cannot shoot right now. Let's not decimate our depth to bring in someone else that can't shoot. Now, that's pretty much the long and short of it as far as like how I view John Morant. Again, nothing to do with any of the other personality stuff. I actually really, really like him as a player. Uh, he means a ton to the city of Memphis because he's been a big community figure. He's done a lot of community service there. There's more than what meets the eye, right? All the stuff that gets clicks to talk about. Is John Morant going to be a problem everywhere he goes? We don't know. Okay, I just think his circumstances haven't been the best in Memphis, and maybe his his days are numbered there, but that's not coming at the cost of the Mavericks blowing up their roster to bring somebody that can't shoot. Okay, I've probably said that 3 or 4 times, and that's my cue to like wind down. It's time to wrap this episode up. But again, Mavericks are 2-5. There were some positives from the game last night against the Rockets, but we're continuing to shoot the ball poorly. We're still turning the ball over like you would not believe. The defensive pressure is pretty good. In fact, like we're a top 15 defense. I think we're going to continue to see that ranking go up and up and up. But it doesn't matter if you can't grab rebounds. Okay. It doesn't matter if you're allowing the opposing team to get 15 offensive rebounds. Okay. So those are the things that we're seeing. And, going back to Cooper Flagg again, it appears that we're trying to play him through a shoulder injury. And I don't like that. If that's really the case and it's a real injury, maybe he should sit out for a couple of games and really recover. And by the way, an 18-year-old is probably going to recover from something like that a lot faster than someone that is 25 or 28 or 32. So like maybe we can afford to just let him sit for a couple games and get well so that whenever he does come back, we don't have that lingering in the back of our mind. Is he going to have another collision and re-aggravate it, or is that why he's not shooting the ball well? But let's just remove that from the equation. But no matter what his struggles have been, players across the league are recognizing how supreme of a talent he is, including players like Kevin Durant, probably the greatest scorer of all time. So yeah, I'm probably going to listen to Kevin Durant over keyboard warriors on Twitter. That's just my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. But that is all I've got for you today. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, hit the bell on the screen so you can be notified when the next episode drops. But yeah, I'm Ethan, the advisor Clayton, and I will leave you with this: party on, Mavs fam. Y'all be good.